Oh, I wanted to see Trump. He's doing his agenda. He's talking at the America First Summit in Washington, D.C. today. So let's move away from landlords and back to the Lord of the land, Donald Trump.
51%. We must never allow ourselves to grow numb to the violence that is tearing apart the fabric of our nation. It's time to have the courage to say what needs to be said and to do what needs to be done to keep America safe. We've never had a time like this. We've never had anything close to what's happening right now.
Like what?
We owe it to the victims, we owe it to our families, and we owe it to our country to do the right thing. In the Make America Great Again movement, we believe that every citizen of every background should be able to walk anywhere in this nation at any hour of the day without even a thought of being victimized by violent crime. If we don't have safety, we don't have freedom, we don't have a country. America first must mean safety first. We have to have safety. Starting with our new majorities in Congress next year.
It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny to consider that, like, you know, shit was significantly more dangerous under his reign. Like, people were literally fucking protesting in the streets, and whenever he talked about how dangerous cities were, it was like, dog, you kind of played a role in that.
First, we have to give our police back their authority, resources, power, and prestige. We have to leave our police alone.
They're having a hard time right now. In Uvalde, their fifis were hurt.
They'll be fired. They'll be put in jail. Let them do their job. Give them back the respect that they deserve. Our great police know what to do. We have to allow them to do it. We need to return to stop and frisk policies in cities and not shy away from it.
Yo! I mean, this is a great line. This is great rhetoric because, like, it recognizes that police are doing, like, racist shit, right? And he's saying, like, we need more racism from the police.
And they apologized.
It's an admission.
No longer safe. So stop and frisk. It works. Do it judiciously. Take the guns away from the criminals who shouldn't be having guns. Let the people that have to have guns, that need to have guns, let them have them. But take them away from the criminals. If you're a convicted felon and you have a gun, you're off the streets and you know where you go. The mere concept of defunding the police should never again be stated or even heard. It is so
I love the Republican messaging on this is so fucking adequate. He says, like, Democrats are defunding the police, okay? And instead of, like, tackling the messaging around defunding the police as a movement or, like, what the police deserve, how much money they're fucking taking from the overall budget, and the reason why your cities suck is because these fucking these hot dog pieces of shit are not doing anything and just, like, literally buying new cruisers and all these, like, cool guns and shit to just sit around idly as, like, a school shooting happens in Uvalde and numerous other examples. Instead of, like, reorienting the conversation around, like, police ineptitude, incompetence, all this shit, they are simply saying, no, that's not true. We want to fund the police more. Completely giving up on that argument. No matter what you do, and this is something I've talked about before, no matter what you do as a liberal, okay, you will never be able to come across like you are more reactionary than the Republicans, okay? So stop doing that. It's the John Kerry, I'm the real patriot, and George W. Bush didn't actually serve attitude that has failed the Democrats time and time again. I'm old enough to remind you of this reality, okay? They try this all the time. They're like, oh, well, when they go low, we go just as low, but like a little bit less low. It's like, motherfucker, they will always beat you there, okay? If you get down to their level and try to advocate for the values that they are advocating for, you are legitimizing their position. You are legitimizing the argument that they're making. You're basically stating that like the argument is true and that you are actually better at funding the police than the Republicans are. All of a sudden, no one is talking about whether or not the police budgets are too inflated to begin with. All of a sudden, we're just simply talking about who's funding the police more. And in that situation, let me tell you something. No one's going to fucking think you're funding the police because you're a libtard, okay? 87% of the police force voted for Donald Trump, okay? 87%. That number has always been consistent with the Republican Party. Cops are a group of disorganized, not well-trained thugs that are hyper-reactionary, okay?
We know where these gangs operate, what streets they control. We even know their names. The police officers know their names. The problem is they're not allowed to do anything about it, and they want to. We need to get in there immediately, go into every drug den, every stash house, every hideaway, and round up the dealers and killers and the gang members and charge them with any and every crime that we find. And there are a lot of them: drug crimes, sex crimes, all sorts of crimes, vicious, horrible crimes like we've really never seen before, certainly not on a scale like this. We're a war zone.
It's such a funny fucking argument. Like, oh yeah, cops' hands are tied. Like, they know where the MS-13 gang members are, and yet their fucking hands are tied. You know what I mean? They're just like, oh man, I really wish I could do, cop work, but I just simply cannot. The idea that like cops are also going to do this, they know where they are, but they're not doing it. They're simply unable to do so is a silly one too. It's a silly notion.
It's a very, think of it, 200,000. You don't lose that in wars. You don't lose that in wars. And yes, these drug traffickers should and must receive the death penalty. And I'll tell you, just from
oh God,
with the heads of other countries.
Bro, Duterte.
I said to President Xi of China, "Do you have a drug problem?" No.
He said Duterte time.
2 hours.
You're too big of a pussy to admit Trump was a great president. Why?
Not 2 years, not 20 years.
Why was he a great president?
No, we're not going to have that. But just by the mere
he did
fact
literally
that
nothing great, with the exception of like COVID stimmies.
Drug dealing would go down,
and even then he fucked everything else up about COVID. The market thrived during Trump. That's something. Yeah, totally.
If we didn't send in the National Guard, they wouldn't have a city left.
Yeah.
But you have to wait for the governors, in theory.
Motherfuckers who are like buying penny stocks and day trading are like, the market thrived under Trump. Bitch, what do you mean? You made $30. Shut the fuck up.
That we have, we're not going to wait any longer. We're going to pass legislation where we can.
But the line went up. The line went up. Here's the 1 minute ad break now.
Millions of people we're talking about, and help make our cities clean, safe, and beautiful again, is to open up large parcels of inexpensive land in the outer reaches of the cities, bring medical professionals, including doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, drug rehab specialists, build permanent bathrooms and other facilities, make them good, make them hard, but build them fast, and create thousands and thousands of high-quality tents, which can be done in one day. And you have to move people out. Now, some people say, oh, that's so horrible. No, what's horrible is what's happening now. Because now they're in tents, but most of them aren't even tents that function. But we have to do it, because you can put up a tent in one day. It would be 2 years, 3 years, long time if you're going to build housing that would take care of the kind of numbers that we're talking. We're talking about hundreds of thousands and probably millions of people. It will be the ambition of these people and all of us to get their life back on track, leave the tent city, and be back into the mainstream of society, which is where they want to be. It's a great thing. Now, the media will go out and say, oh, Trump wants to build tents. No, I want to take care of the people. Because nothing could be as bad as what's happening to them right now. And at the same time, I want to save our cities, because you're going to have a time when nobody will be here anymore. Nobody will come. Wait, what? Here? Nobody will come.
Is he getting closer to like
New York, or Chicago, Los Angeles, or any of our cities to build millions of units of housing or hold homeless people in
Hey guys, I have a really radical solution, and it's not dissimilar to what Trump is proposing. Are you ready for this? So instead of tents, we could build something that's not dissimilar to a tent, okay? It's kind of like a tent, but with concrete beams around it to make sure that the tent has like better structural integrity and can withstand weather conditions, right? It'll have like a roof and maybe insulation. These are very similar to tents. It's pretty much, you could call it a tent if you would like, but it's kind of like it would have 4 walls instead of like the regular triangular formation that you are used to seeing with a tent. Because like the regular triangular formulation, like you can move that around with ease, but like honestly, it doesn't offer the same kind of protective coverage. It also doesn't have insulation. I think insulation could be pretty good too. And one of the issues also is like plumbing. I feel like you can't really put plumbing inside of a tent, but these new tents 2.0, could have plumbing in it as well, like a sink, maybe even a kitchen. So I don't know. I feel like that's. I mean, I agree with Trump. I think we should build these tents, but tent 2.0 basically, and we can put homeless people in them.
We've all heard the story of the bodega worker on the night shift in New York who was violently assaulted. Violent. It was on camera, on tape, 3 different directions by a man attempting to steal a bag of potato chips. When he stabbed the man in self-defense, after being really roughed up and beat up, punched in the face, and the bodega worker was charged with murder. But thankfully, after a lot of pressure, those charges have been dropped. They have been dropped. Amazing. But
Whenever you see someone rely on like a singular anecdote, especially a singular anecdote that is like really powerful and emotional, understand that they're lying to you, okay? I don't know the exact details of what he's talking about, and it could have happened, but the reality is that like crime is a, permanent fixture of every society. Every society has instances like this, but the only reason why a presidential candidate or someone like this would use this real story, okay, in his narrative, in his advocacy, is because he's trying to drive home the underlying reactionary narrative that like crime is happening. It happened, and that video is pretty wild. No, I'm not saying it didn't happen. Okay, there's a likelihood that it happened. Not only does it happen, it happens all the time. The point is, crime is permanent. Like it always happens, and what you need to do is try to address the underlying reasons why this kind of crime happens. But the only reason why he's mentioning this is because he's fear-mongering. Trump will take a story like this and then turn around and use it to serve an overarching narrative. It is a singular anecdote, but why is he mentioning it? Just like he will always mention like one immigrant that was charged with rape or something. That doesn't mean that there are no immigrants that have ever been charged with rape. Of course there are. Of course. But if you look at the actual statistics, undocumented citizens are charged with violent crimes and convicted of violent crimes at way lower percentages than natural-born U.S. citizens are. Why? Probably because they are way more risk-averse and way more afraid of fucking law enforcement, and they don't want to, they're not operating within the same confines that of the same level of comfort that a natural-born U.S. citizen would. That's one of the many different reasons, obviously. But if you look at the actual evidence, if you look at the reality, it's drastically different than the way that Trump is presenting it and the way that all these other people are presenting it.
Horrible, vicious.
Oh my God. 75% of Democratic and Democratic-leaning voters want the party to nominate someone other than President Biden in 2024. The same poll showed 55% of Republican and Republican-leaning voters want someone other than Trump as the GOP nominee. So there's more people in the Democratic Party that don't want Biden than there are people in the Republican Party that want fucking Trump. Oh my God.
And I'm not doing this for me because I had a very luxurious life. I had a very simple life. I had everything. People say, you sure you want to do this? But, there's an expression, the best day of your life is the day before you run for president. Did you ever hear that expression? And I laughed at it. I said, that may be true, actually. Right, Kelly? That'd be true. But I'm doing it for America, and it's my honor to do it. It's my great, great honor to do it.
Yeah, he's doing it
Because
for
if I
America.
don't, our nation is doomed to become another Venezuela or become another Soviet Union. That's where we're headed. When you look at what's happening with the media, Newt, that's where we're headed. Or become a very large-scale version of Cuba, where all is lost and there is no hope. But no matter how big or powerful the corrupt radicals that we're fighting against may be, no matter how menacing they appear, we must never forget this nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you, the American people.
It's so funny how fucking powerless the Democratic Party is when he says shit like this. Like, Republicans are owning right now. Like, they're literally owning. They're owning from the grave. You're just a brainwashed Democrat? Hell yeah, brother.
Republic, unlike anything the world has ever known. Our American ancestors stood their ground on Bunker Hill. They starved and suffered at Valley Forge, and they seized victory at Yorktown. So many great, incredible, dangerous, brilliant events. They ventured out and conquered an untamed wilderness. They settled the Great Plains, crossed the Rockies, and kept pushing westward. They raised families. They built a bustling city. They founded thriving industries. They rescued freedom from the evils of fascism and communism. And they planted our flag on the face of the moon. Think of what we've done. These courageous men and women
the moon
gave
landing was
everything they had
staged,
to
guys,
make
though.
America into the greatest nation in all of history. Greatest nation in all of history.
With the exception of
now
like
we are a
one or
nation
two of those
in
things that he just mentioned, most of it is just America doing genocide, but he's just like saying it in a positive
That
way.
has the highest inflation in 49 years. And where the stock market just finished the worst first half of the year since 18.
Like World War II, moon landing. That's it.
Likewise,
Everything
we
else
are a
is just
nation that
literally
has the highest
genocide, but he's
energy
saying
cost
it
in
like
its
it was
history.
cool.
We are no longer energy independent or energy dominant as we were just 2 short years ago. Think of it. We are a nation that is begging Venezuela and Saudi Arabia and many others for oil. Please, please, please help us, Joe Biden.
Instead,
says.
he would be begging Saudi
Yet we
Arabia
have
just
more
like Joe
liquid
did
gold
inevitably.
under our feet
Come on, bro.
than any other nation in the world. We are a nation that is consumed by the radical left's Green New Deal. Yet everyone knows that the Green New Deal will lead to the destruction of our country. We are a nation that surrendered in Afghanistan, leaving behind dead soldiers, American citizens, and $85 billion worth of the finest military equipment in the world. And we are a nation that allowed Russia to devastate
thing Brandon
country,
ever did.
Ukraine, killing hundreds of thousands of people.
There's only
And
good
it will
legacy.
only get worse. And it would never, ever, ever have happened if I was your commander-in-chief. Would have never happened. And it didn't. It didn't. For 4 years, it didn't. And China, with Taiwan, is next. We're a nation that has weaponized its law enforcement like never before against the opposing political party. Nothing's ever happened like what's happening now.
What?
We're a nation that no longer has a free and fair press. Fake news is all you get, and they are the true enemy of the people. We are a nation where free speech is no longer allowed, where crime is rampant like never before, where the economy has been collapsing, where more people died of COVID in 2021 than died in 2020.
He's right about that.
We are a nation that is allowing Iran to build a massive nuclear weapon.
He's right about that. Dark
Which they are
Brandon.
incredibly
Dark Brandon
being
killed
allowed
more
to
MAGA
do
supporters
right
with
now as we
COVID
speak.
than Donald Trump
Would have
ever
never
could.
happened
It's
under
true.
President Trump. They were dying to make a deal.
It's true.
They
Dark
would have made a
Dark
deal with
Brandon.
us right after the election, and it would have been a good deal.
Let's go.
And China is being allowed to use the trillions and trillions of dollars it has taken from us to build a military, the likes of which possibly the world has never seen. And this also would never
Dark
have
Brandon,
happened
rise up.
with us.
Rise up,
The
Brandon
level of
heads.
speed with which they're going, it's a very dangerous thing. And just 2 years ago, we had Iran, China, Russia, and North Korea in check. They weren't going to do a thing against us, and everyone knows it, especially those leaders, and perhaps most.
When he talks about weaponizing the police force and stuff, like he's saying that's what he wants to do, and he's going to inevitably have to do it because he's setting the grounds for that. He's like, oh, well, they did it first, so the only way to fight back against the fake press, fake news media, lying press is by weaponizing the law enforcement community against them.
Whose economy is floundering, whose stores are not stocked, whose deliveries are not coming, and whose educational system is ranked at the bottom of every list. But we are not going to let this continue. 2 years ago, we
Why
had
are you
the
making your own
greatest-
dialogue that wasn't
There's
said?
never
Wait,
been
what?
anything
This
like
is true? He's
2
correct in what
years
he's saying, though? Keck,
Greatness like no
W?
one had ever seen. There's never been anything. We were
oh, we're back. We're back with the
outlapping
Trump didn't
China.
actually mean it, but if he meant it, he was right about it. But if he was right about it and he meant it and it was kind of bad, then other people are doing worse, guys. The dick
2018,
riding is about to be
2019,
out of
the latest,
control, dude.
and they weren't even close.
Homies in the
because
chat are going to
we
be
were
bouncing off of
outdistancing
Trump's
something that
dick
they never thought could happen.
so
But soon we
fucking
will have
hard,
greatness
dude.
again. With all my heart and all my soul, I firmly believe that the American people will reject a fate of decline, demoralization, and ultimately
People are going to
fate
ride
of-
Trump's dick so hard, it's going to make Aiden Ross riding Andrew Tate look like nothing. It's going to make that look normal. Contentious, even.
nation that is more exceptional than it ever was before. I believe we can do that. America's story is far from over. And in fact, we are just getting ready for an incredible comeback, a comeback that we have no choice but to make. We don't have a choice. We won't have a country if we don't make it. Through strength, we will restore our safety. Through hard work, we will rebuild our prosperity. Through courage, we will reclaim our liberty. Through love, we will repair our unity. Through success, we will rediscover our pride. And through unyielding determination together, we will make America stronger, safer, freer, greater, and more glorious than ever before. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a great honor. Thank you.
This was a little bit low energy.